Continuing Perek Beis Sha'ar Kudim. V'nei kvar b'yanu shlosh b'chinas hatamim. We already explained now the two b'chinas hatamim. We said tamim elyonim, tamim entzim, and tamim tachtonim, which come out of the oznaim, chotem, and peh. Ve'omnam gam b'chinas nekudos tagim v'osios kluim b'hem. And also the b'china of nekudos tagim and osios are included in them. Ela she'inam isgalim kan ad lamata v'os ha'inayim. But they're not going to be revealed until later. Said down below in the Otzros Chaim, we're going to see it comes out of the, or light that comes out of the Einayim. And as we will explain in this place, with the help of Hashem. Now we're going to explain these oros that are called akudim. When the oros akudim came out, they came out of the peh, which these oros are called oros akudim, they didn't come out totally perfected. As we're going to explain. The reason for this is Hashem's intention was now to start creating kelim, vessels. In order to dress up the or, to minimize the or, and to dress it up, in order that the receivers, the creation that Hashem wants to create, will be able to receive the or of Hashem. And since this or came out of the peh for the first time, it came out imperfected. Not shalom, yeah. They had to go back into the peh in order to become perfected. And through the or coming back into the peh, kli was created, as we're going to explain. And the inyan for this is, the idea of this is ki bevalehu shebechinas hakli. For sure, the bechinas hakli, the aspect of the kli was bekoach, was still in potential. Even though it was not actually acting and expressing itself inside the light, it was included inside the light. Because the kli really is a type of light that started off as a type of light, which is really or there was gas and af, which was thick and more base, a more lower type of light. That's what the kli actually is. That's what it's made from. So really, in the upper oros also, and certainly in this before the kli is created here, the or has the or of the kli. The kli is actually dissolved inside, or enveloped inside, or mixed up inside the general or that comes out of the peh. However, it comes out as the lower type of light. So, just as a mashal again, if you imagine the lights, a fluorescent light or a different type of light that you have that has many different colors of light. Let's just say, if there was a type of color which you could define as the more base, lower type of color, then that color would be would later on become the kli. If it were left alone, that color would be the kli. So here we have all the light, that color mixed up with all the rest of the colors, which make a white light. But later on in the stages, we're going to separate that light, and that light is going to be, instead of bekoach, potentially being a certain color, and now it's actually going to be a certain color, actually going to be kli. So let's just say, for example, white light that comes out of the fluorescent lamps have all the different colors inside of them. Let's just call red, for example. Let's call that the lowest type of light that there is. So if now there is no red that's distinguishable inside this light inside the white light. If you look at the white light directly, you'll just see white. But if you can later on separate the red from the rest of the lights, you will now have the red as acting in action instead of in potential. Whereas in the white light, we still would call the red light as just potentially it could be red. It could be, you could take it out and you can make it red. So here, it's very similar. The oros that come out of the peh, for example, which we're speaking about here, have the oros of the of the kelim, the fundamental fabric of the kelim, was inside these ors that came out of the peh. However, it was enveloped inside the rest of the ors and didn't have an expression independent of the rest of the ors. And this is what made these ors not come out yet, not be visible yet, the ors of the kelim. And these are also the lower aspect of the ors, the or of the av and nagas of the peh that came out. But still, we're trying to say that it was there. Even before it was able to be seen, it was there. We're going to see how we're going to separate these. Hashem separates these ors, the lower aspect of the ors, which become the kelim, from the rest of the ors. And that's when it becomes separated, it has an individual existence, and then it's already called existing before, existing in action, instead of existing b'koach, existing in potential. Right. However, in the beginning it was attached to the light very, very strongly. And therefore, its aspect was not revealed. It wasn't revealed, the kelim wasn't revealed at all. Since when this or came out of the peh, through the peh and out, the kli came as mixed inside the ors of peh. When the general light that came out of the ors of peh goes back into the peh to become perfected, since we said it came out imperfected and had to go back into to attain perfection. When that happens, for sure it happened that when the light came out of the peh, this aspect of the kli, which was really started off as the or ha'av, the lower type of or, now as it came out of the Adam Kadmon, it became even more av, even more base. And therefore, since it became even more base, it was not able to go back into the peh like the rest of the ors to get perfection. And when the or hazach left it and went back into its place, into the peh, then the or av, this more base or, got even more base, got even more low, got even more dark, since its other counterpart left it. The higher aspect of the or left it and went back into the peh, and now this low or all by itself is even much, much lower. It became even lower. So there are two stages basically that make this or av agas makes it low. Three actually. It started off av agas, that's the first stage. It started off as the part of the kelim which were the lower aspect of the or that comes out of the peh. That's stage number one. Second stage is as it went out of the Adam Kadmon, it got even more av and gas. It got even more dark, as did apparently the rest of the ors. But certainly this or, the lower or, got even more up. And now by the third stage, where the rest of the or, the higher type of or, goes back into the peh, the lower type of or is left all by itself. This being left all by itself makes it even lower. So that's three aspects where it's lower than, where the or, I guess the or which make the kelim become lower than, or are lower than the higher aspect of light, the rest of the light. And then, when this happens and the rest of the or goes back into the peh, what's left is b'china v'kli, which starts off as the lower light, the or av, and goes out of the peh, comes out even more av, and then when the or hazach, the more purified or, leaves it, the or av becomes even more av and becomes a b'china v'kli, an aspect of the kli. V'im tomar, and if you're going to say, im kain kasher yasa or hazach lila v'lispashet v'kli kibrishona, yasa v'yizdakeh hakli kibrishona v'yizbatam lios b'chinas kli. If you're going to ask and you're going to say, if so, when the or, like we're going to see later on, comes back into its place to come out of the peh, the or, even the or ha'av, the kli, is now going to become zach and become included again inside the original or hazach, and it'll stop being a kli. if you're going to ask that question, tshuva b'zehi, the tshuva for this, the answer for this is what I told you in a different place. Kilo, which is in Eitz Chaim, we're going to see Shamati V'Lamati V'ez Hashem. If we finish all the Otzros Chaim, then we're going to move on to the Eitz Chaim. We're going to learn also this. Ki lo chazu kol asar sfiros shenis'alim mimakor lachzav leir kulam. This is actually, in this Otzros Chaim also, most of this answer is also in Otzros Chaim, this aspect we're quoting now. When the lights came back into the kelim, it didn't come back 10 to 10. Let's say, we're going to see later on, there are 10 kelim that were created from Keser to Malchus, and there are 10 Oros, Pashtos, even though the 10 kelim is really all combined. We're going to see later on about that. Well, just for argument's sake, there are 10 places in the Kli, from Keser to Malchus, and there are 10 Oros. So, if the Oros were to come back into the Kelim, Keser were to go back into Keser, and Chachma were to go into Chachma, and the Or of Malchus were to go into the Kli of Malchus, then it would be true that possibly the Kli would stop existing. However, it didn't happen like that. And the Oros that went inside the Peh, the Or Zach, did not come out fully and did not take its place in the Kelim completely. Rather, only 9 of the Oros that went inside the Peh went back out. And the Elyon, which is the Keser, stayed inside the Matzil. So what happens is that all the Oros went back into the Peh, but only 9 of them came out. So there's one that's missing. Each one of the Oros took the Kli, which was one step higher than its Or. So Chachma ended up going into the place of Keser. If we're going to say, Or Chachma went into the Kli of Keser. Each one went into the Or above itself. And now the Oros, the Kelim, the Kli of Keser is able to receive, is able to handle the Or Chachma and not be mevatel itself, and not nullify itself, and to become totally included with the Or Chachma, and to stop being a Kli. It doesn't happen. It's able to stand as a Kli in and of itself, the Kli of Keser, since it's the only Or that's sitting upon it, that's going inside of it, is the Or of Chachma. However, if the Or of Keser were to go inside of it, then it would stop existing, and it would start, it would go back to be like it was in the beginning, totally enveloped and developed and mixed inside the Or of Keser. So again, since not all Ors come out of the Peh, and the Or does not really take its proper place in the Kelim continue to exist. All of the Kelim continue to exist. We're going to see more about this later, the whole process of how the Oros come out and how the Oros go back in. Okay. And similarly, all of them, all of them came out only with the Bechinas Nefesh. All these Oros, when they first came out, they came out in the first step, they came out with only Nefesh. And this is the secret of the Pasuk, Nishba Hashem Benafsho, Hashem swore with his Nefesh, or from his Nefesh. Ki Hatzilus, Shu Nikra Nekudim. The Hatzilus, which is called Nekudim, which we're going to see later on, which is the Olam, which is going to come after the Olam Peh, which is Olam HaAkudim, which is the Oros that come out of the Peh. So Nekudim is Olam Hatzilus. K'mo she'izbar, we're going to explain Bez Hashem. V'hu Nikra Shem Havaya, and it is called Shem Havaya. The Olam Hatzilus is called Shem Havaya. V'hu Nishba B'mi Shegol Meno, and it's making a shvua in whoever is greater than it. V'hu Olam HaKudim Piniska. And this is Olam HaKudim. Like in general, we see in the Chumash and in different places, we say Chei Paro, by the life of Paro, I promise you that such and such is true. These things are, that's the way a person makes a shvua, the way a person swears. When a person swears, a person takes a holy item, or swears by something greater than them, by the name of the king, or other things like that. And these are things that, this is the way that's speaking. So here we see, Nishba Hashem Benafsho, Hashem, which is Havaya, which is Olam HaTzilus, made a shvua, swore with what? What did it use as the thing greater than it, by the name of the king? Used Nafsho. Used its Nefesh. What is Nefesh? We're going to see the Nefesh is Akudim. Nefesh is called Akudim. When Nishba, it always makes a Shavua, everyone makes a Shavua with who is greater than it. And who is greater than Atzilus? Akudim is greater than Atzilus. So that's Olam HaAkudim. Asher Kulam Yatsu B'chinas Nefesh B'ilvad, where all of them came out in the B'china of Nefesh B'ilvad, as we're going to explain soon. Umizet Tamik V'tir, Kama Amkum Machshavosav Yisbarach, Ki Afilu Olam HaElyon, Shel HaKudim, Eino Rak B'chinas Nefesh B'ilvad. And here we can see how great the Hashem's machshavos are, Hashem's actions and thoughts are, because even the Olam HaElyon, Shel HaKudim, Eino Rak B'chinas Nefesh B'ilvad, only is a b'china of nefesh, is only b'china of nefesh, even though we have nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, chida, the Olam HaKudim is only b'chinas nefesh. And here we see that how much more so is all the other Olamos. So if Olam HaKudim, which is a super, super high Olam, is only b'chinas nefesh, what happened to all the ruach, neshama, chaya, chida, they're even much, much greater. The hinei, kol ha'asar spheres, all the 10 spheres yatsu, they did not come out all together. But first what happened is the Malchus came out from the Yatsu Me'olam HaKudim, the Malchus came out first. Hefech Me'olam HaKudim. This is opposite of what we're going to see by the Olam HaNakudim. The Koma Koma, as we're going to see in its place later on, Bez Hashem. That the Nakudim we didn't speak about, but there it's going to come out opposite. Here what comes out is that Malchus comes out first from the Peh, then Yesod, and it comes out, Malchus comes out first, then Yesod comes out afterwards and pushes Malchus down, so to speak, and then the next, and then Hod, and then Netzach, and then Tiferes, and each one comes out afterwards. Whereas by Atzilus, which is an Olam Nakudim, we're going to see that it comes out first as Keser, and then Chachma and Bina from top to bottom. Malchus zuhi shiyatza b'chinas nefesh levad, and Malchus is what came out first with nefesh levad. Ki eina sfira she'ein bo chamesh b'chinas shem nefesh ruach neshama chaya chida kanona. Omnam lo yatzu ata rak b'chinas nefesh levad. So here, the first step, every time the or came out only with b'chinas nefesh, as we're going to see later on. That every or came out starting with B'chinas Nefesh, and later on got higher madrigas, one step after the next. They got higher aspects. They got ruach neshama. Many of them got higher. B'niyolin is daiti chaim l'kasha drush zeh yimadrush shenichtav bez Hashem. Ki b'chinas ha'ozen hi neshama, v'achotem hi ruach, v'apeh nefesh, k'mo she'avar l'mata v'drush zeh atzmo ein sham. And this is Rav Chaim Vital now interjecting, saying that it would seem to him he would like to compare this, or to attach this to a drush that we're going to write later on, and that he's going to write later on, and that later on we're going to say that the b'china of or ozen, in comparison to the or chotem and to the or peh, the or ozen is neshama, which is like bina, and the or chotem is ruach, and or peh is nefesh. So here we see that or peh is being defined as nefesh in and of itself, in relation to all the other ors. Even though up above it seemed to be saying that we're calling it nefesh only because apparently when the ors come out, we see that it comes out only nefesh, and later on it's going to add high madrigas, but when it comes out only nefesh, that's why we're calling it nefesh. And here the Rav is connecting this to what we're saying, what we said in a different place, what we will say in a different place, that if you want to understand how all the elements relate to each other, so they relate to each other in the nefesh, in Oznaim, ruach in the chotem, and peh neshama in Oznaim, ruach in the chotem, and nefesh in peh. So it's another explanation, or you can integrate this into what we said before, how Olam HaKudim is only called nefesh. It's called nefesh. Mishba Hashem v'nafshem. V'nei, ani choshev b'vadei sheshamati m'kimor Yisrael. Now this is Rav Chaim Vital continuing and saying, I'm almost positive that I heard, I think that I for sure heard from my rabbi, the Rizal, Ki vadei kash yatzu kol asar spheres se'elu. For sure when these 10 spheres came out of the peh, hayu kol ha'bechinos shel naran chai kluim behem. All the bechinos of nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, and chida were included inside of them. But at first, only the Bechina of Nefesh was revealed inside of them. So even though they did have all of them, they was only revealed the Bechina of Nefesh at first. As we're going to explain similarly by the Jewish Nishmas Adam Tachton, that in certain place what he explains there is that a person can be born with only a Nefesh being revealed, but really has Nefesh Ruach Neshama Chayachida inside of him, and the rest of the Bechinas are just hidden. Where as he develops, as he grows older, as he develops himself, then the rest of the Bechinas will become revealed, even though they were there in the first place. They just weren't developed. Later on they're going to be developed. That when he comes out into the world, and bet animo from his mother's stomach, they come out with all the 5 bechinas, nefesh, ruach, neshama, chayachida. But only the nefesh is revealed at first. And later on the rest becomes revealed. Each one in and of itself, ad kan. Each one in and of itself. Meaning, as the child grows older, each one of the aspects of nefesh, ruach, neshama, chayachida, nefesh is already there, ruach, neshama, chayachida become developed and revealed, whereas in the beginning they're not revealed. So he's saying here too, by Olam HaSakudim, the Urs did come out with only nefesh, but they really had nefesh, ruach, neshama, chayachida inside of them. Only nefesh was developed and was revealed, and later on the rest of the bechinos are going to become revealed.